I think they're just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping that it sticks because they know that their client is guilty and they're just trying to do the best that they can with a guilty client.
As you all know, I made a request today for what we were calling a gag order, and I'm not going to walk out of court and do anything other than live up to that.
Oh my God, you are not going to believe what's happening in the celebrity world right now. The music industry is absolutely shaking over the latest scandal, and it involves none other than Diddy Combs himself. Can you believe it? The man who was practically untouchable, who built an empire of hits and high-profile businesses, is now fighting for his reputation in a courtroom drama that has everyone's jaws on the floor. But let me tell you, it's not just the legal mess that has everyone talking. It's his shocking appearance. When he walked into that courtroom, nobody, and I mean nobody, could believe their eyes. Journalists, fans, even the judge seemed stunned into silence. What happened to the flashy, charismatic powerhouse we all knew? Let me spill all the tea on this unfolding nightmare.
That this is the end of the Diddy story as we know it.
When Diddy made his latest court appearance, I literally out loud. This was not the polished music mogul who's dominated magazine covers for decades. The man who shuffled into that courtroom looked like a shadow of his former self. Overgrown gray hair, matching beard, and looking about 20 years older overnight. And of course, the rumors started flying immediately. Is this all part of some strategy to win sympathy? Or is this what actually happens when your empire starts crumbling around you? Whatever the reason, seeing him like this, stripped of all that glitz and glamour that protected him for so long, was absolutely heart-stopping.
In her civil lawsuit, Cassie said that she was the victim of abuse, sexual assault, and rape at the hands of Diddy.
But wait, it gets so much worse. The new allegations that came out during this court session, I'm still shaking. The prosecutors came in guns blazing with what they called critical evidence that painted the darkest picture yet of the mogul's past. These weren't just little accusations, honey. We're talking years of alleged misconduct where Diddy supposedly used his massive influence over employees in ways that crossed every line imaginable, moral and legal. One accusation about his intimidation tactics was so shocking that the entire courtroom went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. The stakes of his legal battle just shot through the roof with these revelations. Everyone was exchanging these wide-eyed looks like, is this really happening? It was like watching a train wreck in slow motion, horrifying but impossible to look away from.
We are not done. This investigation is ongoing, and I encourage anyone with information about this case to come forward and to do it quickly.
You said we are not done, and that Combs did not do this alone. Do you foresee that there could be other charges related to this case? I'm not taking anything off the table. That exchange sent shivers down everyone's spine. People couldn't help connecting those ominous words to all the swirling rumors about Diddy possibly surrendering. Can you believe it? The man who has fiercely denied every accusation thrown his way might actually be changing his tune. Some insiders are claiming he's now cooperating with federal authorities. If that's true, and I'm hearing from very reliable sources that it might be, this would be an absolute earthquake in the case. Is he finally admitting to some wrongdoing? Is he trying to save what little he has left? His team is supposedly exploring this option to protect his remaining interests, but nobody knows for sure what's happening behind closed doors.
A U.S. judge has ruled that the rapper and producer Sean Diddy Combs will stand trial on federal sex trafficking and racketeering charges in May. He'll be held in prison until then. Sean Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges that he used his business empire to transport women and male sex workers across state lines to take part in recorded sexual performances. If convicted, he could face a life sentence. David Willis reports.
The family drama aspect of this saga is absolutely breaking my heart. Despite these horrific allegations piling up, his family is still standing by him. His son Christian, daughter Chance, and his mother Denise were all there in court, their faces showing the incredible toll this nightmare is taking on them. But even with their unwavering support on full display, you couldn't ignore the elephant in the room. The accusations against him are just too enormous, too serious to be overshadowed by anything, even family loyalty. The contrast between that tender family moment and the monstrous allegations was just devastating to witness.
Hey, real quickly, all that commissary stuff, he's not getting any of that because people in the shoe have an abbreviated list. So he's out of luck. No stake for him. Yeah, he is on watch. This guy thought he would have went home. All of a sudden, he didn't get bond. Remember, the first night that he was there, he was like an overnight.
Just when you thought this saga couldn't get any more dramatic, the rumors about Diddy possibly cooperating with authorities started spreading like wildfire. Could this be the plot twist nobody saw coming? Legal experts are going crazy trying to figure out what this might mean. Is Diddy cutting some kind of deal to save his own skin? Or is this all part of some elaborate strategy to shift focus away from the most damaging parts of his case? Whatever the truth is, one thing is crystal clear. For the first time in literally decades, Diddy looks completely defenseless. All his money, all his influence, all his connections, none of it seems to be helping him now. The man who once seemed untouchable is now backed into a corner with nowhere to run.
And I understand that he has a shrink coming by his cell to see him several times a day. And now there's talk about putting him in, it's like a bubble. It's like a cell that has like a plexiglass wall in it where they have inmates watching you. That's actually their job, to keep an eye on the inmates that are on watch.
As that dramatic court session finally wrapped up, the questions about Diddy's future hung in the air like a dark cloud. His once pristine reputation shattered. His legacy as a cultural icon tarnished. Watching him leave that courtroom, aging, subdued, barely recognizable, was like witnessing the final chapter of his spectacular fall from grace. But honey, that wasn't even the end of the day's bombshells. Behind the scenes, all is not well with his legal team. I'm hearing there's serious internal conflict brewing about how to handle his defense strategy. Team members are reportedly at each other's throats over which direction to take. And then there's this mysterious Cassie certificate, apparently a crucial piece of evidence that could be the final nail in Diddy's coffin. The prosecution is salivating over this document, and Diddy's team is in absolute panic mode trying to keep it out of court. Mix all that with the persistent rumors about his declining health and potential cooperation with authorities, and you've got a soap opera that not even the best Hollywood writers could dream up.
Now, to the latest on the arrest of Sean Diddy Combs. This one has so many people talking. The disgraced music mogul facing federal racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking charges. Both the prosecution and defense teams are set to discuss the next phase of action following the indictment, as investigators work to determine potential co-conspirators. But how exactly did we get here?
As the courtroom emptied and the media circus started to disperse, you could feel a new wave of speculation building. Is this truly the beginning of the end for one of entertainment's most recognizable figures? And if Diddy does go down, what happens to the legacy he spent decades building? Can you imagine? The people who should be fighting tooth and nail for his freedom are now at the center of their own scandal. Are they really in his corner, or are they playing some other game altogether? The courtroom wasn't just a battleground for the case. It was like watching Diddy's own team fall apart at the seams.
Now, to the latest on the arrest of Sean Diddy Combs. This one has so many people talking. The disgraced music mogul facing federal racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking charges. Both the prosecution and defense teams are set to discuss the next phase of action following the indictment, as investigators work to determine potential co-conspirators. But how exactly did we get here?
The rumors have been swirling for weeks that Diddy's legal team, led by high-profile attorney Mark Agnifilo, is nowhere near as united as they want us to believe. Insiders are saying that certain members of his defense might not actually be fully committed to helping him. Instead, and this is the really juicy part, their true loyalty might be to powerful shadow figures pulling strings behind the scenes, people who are more concerned about protecting themselves than about whether Diddy walks free. Let's be real here, Diddy's empire wasn't exactly built on squeaky clean deals, was it? If he's pressured enough to start cooperating, there's no telling whose names might start tumbling out of his mouth. The music industry is trembling at the possibility.
I think it's to be expected, just the shock of this and the questions about what is ahead of us. I mean, how long is he going to be in custody? Is this an R. Kelly situation? Is he going to not get out for a number of years? Is he going to end up serving a long-term prison sentence from this? Or does he have a chance of beating these charges at a trial that could come?
The speculation about divided loyalties exploded when Anthony Rico, one of the attorneys on Diddy's defense team, suddenly announced he was withdrawing from the case. Talk about terrible timing. The trial is just months away, and with everything at stake, Rico decides to jump ship. Eyebrows shot up everywhere, with insiders calling it a sign of complete chaos within the defense. Others are suggesting that Rico might have been pressured to step down. His statement about being unable to serve consistent with the standards of justice left everyone's imaginations running wild. Was it really about principles, or is there something far more sinister happening behind closed doors?
Now, this particular defense attorney's reason for quitting wasn't really a reason at all, making his departure a lot more puzzling.
Meanwhile, the defense team's strategy, or complete lack thereof, has become the hottest topic of debate. On one hand, they're filing motions left and right, questioning evidence, demanding witness identities. But critics are calling these moves desperate attempts to delay the inevitable. Prosecutors have even accused the defense of using stalling tactics because they know they're drowning in evidence. And then there's that leaked internal memo that allegedly showed the lawyers fighting amongst themselves over how to handle that infamous surveillance footage of Diddy and Cassie in the hotel hallway. Some wanted to challenge whether the footage was even real, while others thought they should focus on discrediting Cassie's testimony instead. The cracks in their united front were starting to show, and everyone in that courtroom could smell blood in the water.
Potentially, it could be a conflict with the client, right? A disagreement. They just don't get along. The communication is poor. They don't agree on defense strategy. It could be a conflict with one of the other lawyers. Obviously, it seems like Agnifilo is the lead on this case, although Rico was certainly his 1B.
At the same time, the whispers about internal disagreements over handling this flood of evidence have intensified. Insiders suggest some members of Diddy's legal team want to focus on discrediting the chain of custody, arguing the evidence could have been tampered with or taken out of context. Others reportedly prefer a more aggressive approach, wanting to dispute the relevance of these materials before they're even presented in court. This internal tug-of-war has only fueled speculation that the defense team is falling apart at the seams, further weakening their position in an already uphill battle.
And I know obviously there's other lawyers on the case. Obviously a lot of the victims are female. They're going to want female lawyers on the defense team, especially during some of the aggressive cross-examination. That tends to be the conventional wisdom when you're dealing with victims who are alleged victims of sexual assault or abuse. And then it could be a conflict with one of the victims themselves. Maybe maybe Rico consulted with them or even represented them.
But here's where it gets really messy. There's talk that Diddy's legal team might actually be working against his best interests. Whether intentionally or not, some are speculating that their primary goal isn't to get him out of jail, but to keep him there long enough to ensure he doesn't spill any secrets that could implicate others. Remember those rumors about Diddy cooperating with federal authorities? If he's trading information for leniency, who's really benefiting from that arrangement? Could his defense team be more focused on controlling what gets out rather than securing his release? It's a chilling thought, but in a case with stakes this high, anything seems possible. And then came the absolute bombshell about Cassie's certificate, a piece of evidence that seemed to come out of nowhere but could potentially change everything. Cassie, who has been at the center of so many allegations against Diddy, reportedly provided a certificate that backs up her claims. While the exact details are still under wraps, insiders hint it's related to events detailed in her lawsuit against Diddy, the same lawsuit that was settled almost as quickly as it was filed but has completely transformed public perception of him. Legal experts are calling this certificate a potential nail in the coffin for Diddy's defense. If this document is what people are saying it is, it could be devastating, one analyst commented. It's one thing to have allegations, it's another to have a paper trail that supports them. The prosecutors are already planning to introduce the certificate as evidence, despite fierce objections from Diddy's team. Mark Agnifilo has reportedly argued that the certificate is irrelevant and prejudicial, But so far, his attempts to block it have gone nowhere.
Combs is seen shoving, kicking, and dragging his then-girlfriend down the hallway. And now he's posted an apology.
The revelation of this certificate has also reignited discussions about Cassie's role in Diddy's downfall. Once seen as his loyal partner through thick and thin, she has emerged as one of the most vocal accusers in his ongoing legal nightmare. Her decision to file that explosive lawsuit in 2023 was the turning point that changed everything. Even though the case was settled within 24 hours, it opened the floodgates for others to come forward with their own stories. Now, with this certificate adding weight to her claims, Cassie's credibility has reached new heights, with some calling her the key to unraveling the entire web of allegations surrounding Diddy.
Yeah, Jessica, it is very difficult to watch. We are actually going to go through it and show our viewers what he is apologizing for, but
Cassie's involvement hasn't been without controversy. Critics have accused her of seeking revenge, while supporters argue she's finally finding her voice after years of silence. The public remains completely divided. Some question her motives, others praise her bravery. What's crystal clear, though, is that her actions have created a ripple effect, inspiring others to speak out and forcing Diddy to confront accusations that had long been swept under the rug. And we can't forget the biggest question of all: what does this mean for Diddy's legacy? Once celebrated as a trailblazer and icon, his name is now synonymous with controversy. Even if he somehow beats these charges, can he ever reclaim his former glory? Or will this trial be the final chapter in a career that's been as tumultuous as it has been groundbreaking? These questions have everyone on the edge of their seats, and as the trial date approaches, the anticipation is reaching fever pitch.
and at one point he appears to throw what looks like vases at her. Now, this apology video that he posted today is the first time that he has acknowledged this event. In fact,
by the end of that dramatic day in court, one thing was absolutely clear: this story is far from over. The courtroom battles, the behind-the-scenes power plays, the shocking twists. It all feels like we're building toward a finale that nobody can predict. As more details emerge in the coming days and weeks, the world will be watching, waiting to see how it all unfolds. Will Diddy somehow rise from the ashes of this scandal? Or will this be the moment that brings his entire empire crashing down around him? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's keep this conversation going. Until next time, stay tuned for more updates on this absolutely riveting story that has everyone talking.